Welcome to the Invisible Season podcast. If postpartum has felt heavier than you expected, you're not alone. Whether you're here for the postpartum conversations or just need someone to keep you company today, I'm glad you found me. Either way, let's get through this invisible season together. Hi guys, welcome to the first episode ever of the Invisible Season podcast. I need you guys to just bear with me because I've never done this before. So I might make some mistakes. I might stutter a lot, but let's just go ahead and get started. I just wanted to make this first episode for the mom that is going through postpartum and has postpartum depression or anxiety or rage. And you might be here because you're trying to do some research and you're wondering if this horrible reality or the feeling that you're in, if it ends. And you know what? It does. It ends. I promise you, it ends. You're probably navigating postpartum and wondering if you're going to always feel this way. Maybe you're wondering if it's just you and your circumstances or if it actually is biological and hormonal. But I promise you, it ends. And I promise you, it is mostly hormonal. Your serotonin's not activating the way it normally does, and your hormones are working against your happiness. How do I know it ends though? I'm only 9 months postpartum. I have no village. I've had deep, severe depression and anxiety. And I would say at this point, it's 90% gone. And yeah, that's just my one experience, but I've also gone down every rabbit hole, which you might be doing now. I've talked to women in my family, my friends, my community, people online. I've read every single mom and postpartum forum and conversation online that you can think of. I've read the articles. I think I've read like almost every Reddit discussion. I've seen and I've asked the most random people that I meet who are moms. And it's just such a dark and ugly and scary place to be. And I felt so desperate. And that's probably why you're searching podcasts about postpartum. And if you have circumstances that aren't ideal, like no village or a husband that's not home and you're completely alone, of course, there are certain things that make things worse. And you might lie to yourself and tell yourself that you're always going to feel this way. But the thing is about postpartum depression that I've come to learn is that it's this demon with sticky fingers that will cling on to everything and anything and convince you it's the worst thing ever, whether your situation is good or bad. You'll question if the feelings you're feeling and the thoughts are actually this thing called PPD, postpartum depression, or if it's just you becoming aware of this new reality. But I promise you it's the hormones and it ends. And I know the big question is when? Well, the thing is it's different for everyone, but it can be as early as 3 months and as late as 2 years. But I find that the general consensus is that it's 18 months. Most of the experiences that people shared with me and that I've read, it seemed like a lot of women said they felt like really better around 6 to 9 months. But I think like all of them said that around the 18-month mark, they thought that they were done with it. But then around the 18-month mark, they feel this great relief they didn't even realize they needed. And everyone's circumstances can make things faster or slower, but please don't believe the people who say it never gets better. They're so inconsiderate and ignorant of where the question, does it get better, comes from when it's coming from a mom who's going through it. It does get better and the depression does end. In my next episode, I'll discuss like my personal story from start to finish. But in this episode, I wanted to focus on why postpartum depression happens, if it happens because of hormones or your circumstances, why it ends, how it gets better. And I would like to just be this friendly voice in your ear during this season so you don't feel so lonely, because I know that chronic loneliness feeling when you're postpartum. Right now, you're in a season of building, and seasons of building you can feel so invisible, but you will come out on the other side. You're just going to have to believe that it ends like many moms. I went from having thoughts, honestly, that I'm too ashamed to ever even say out loud. And now I'm really contemplating doing it all over again. I never thought I would even consider another child. I was so one and done, which is completely fine. I respect one and done parents so much. I envy them, in fact. But look at me. I never thought I would ever say I want another kid, but here I am. Don't get me wrong. It's one of the most difficult decisions or soon to be decisions that I've ever made. But okay, yeah. And even if you are one and done, it's so valid. And we'll talk about that in another episode. Before having a baby, I really thought I was educated on postpartum depression, but nothing, and I mean nothing, could have prepared me for it. You don't understand until you've experienced it. It's so dark. It's so scary. It's just a horrible way of existing, and it's so invisible. People don't understand that you're existing in this completely different reality. I found out only after I had my baby that depression isn't even just one of the things you could deal with postpartum. You can also be dealing with postpartum anxiety, rage, OCD, and even psychosis. I had anxiety and severe depression. With postpartum anxiety, some women describe it like you're worried about everything that could go wrong happening, like your baby falling down the stairs. For me, postpartum anxiety consisted of feeling anxious for myself, for what I could handle, nervous about every little thing, and afraid to not be the mom that this baby deserves. I was scared all day. I felt a lump in my throat, a fist in my stomach, and flutters in my chest. I had 2 severe panic attacks in the first 3 months postpartum. I was so convinced this was all happening simply because I ruined my life and motherhood was just always going to be as relentless as this newborn stage. I didn't understand why anyone would say it's this thing called postpartum depression when it was clearly the fact that life is now just so hard and it's just so exhausting. The fact that there was no end to the day terrified me. That my baby was waking up so frequently, the fact that I have lost my autonomy, the fact that I won't be able to do 1,000,001 things that I used to be able to do before. And every time I opened my phone, it seemed like every mom was suffering and they were just coping and joking about how horrible motherhood is. That's all I would see. So how dare anyone say it's just hormones? But the thing is, it's kind of both, but it is primarily the hormones. I couldn't figure out if it was situational or if it was biological, but it became clear to me eventually that it was biological and my nervous system was truly working against me because one of the signs was that nothing in my sight couldn't trigger me. Something as simple as the coffee mug in front of me could make me think of something sad, whether it was like a memory or some kind of future worry, and it would get me to have this horrible doomsday feeling. I was ruminating all day. Before having a baby, the thing is, I used to love learning about topics like prison and true crime. I used to like learning about Guantanamo Bay and the injustice there and places like Abu Ghraib. And the reason I bring this up is because during the newborn stage, I found myself meticulously writing down wake windows like a psychopath. Feeds, naps, following all the burping tutorials, feeding tutorials, succeeding sometimes, failing miserably and dealing with a crying baby for 3 days in a row. I'm told that if I do this, I'll be successful. And then if I do that, I won't. I experienced sleep deprivation like I never have before while also recovering from surgery. And then it became clear to me really quickly that this torturous loop that I was stuck in was similar to the torture methods that they used in prisons to break prisoners. This fake reward system that's promised after you complete exhausting work, waking up in the middle of the night multiple times to complete a task, followed by more work that's even more difficult and less breaks. This was all designed in prisons to break a prisoner. So no, your depression, your rage, your anxiety, it's not you. Your job is only to make sure that the baby is fed, clothed, and cleaned. But I promise you that torturous newborn loop, it will end. And those doing it without help, it feels like hell because we weren't meant to do this. We were meant to do this around more people. We were meant to have more help and have more social interaction and be part of a community. And we were meant to be taken care of alongside the baby. But society's just become so hyper individualistic, and it seems like it hates moms and it hates community. So we find ourselves dealing with what's not natural, to be honest. I think it should be labeled as abuse to go to the hospital and be sleep deprived for 48 hours because of the drugs they give you and the nurses coming in and out. And then they send you home to recover from surgery and to have to care for this new innocent soul that has so much needs. But anyways, I'll talk about that in another episode. I'm just ranting now. All I need you to remember right now, if you're in the thick of it, is this. These poor babies did not ask to be here. They're not giving you a hard time. They're having a hard time. And right now, just focus on the call of duty. Take it day by day, because I promise you, each day will feel so different. You might have a great day one day and a horrible day the next, to be honest, but things are going to gradually improve a lot. But right now, you need to just put it in your head that for this season, because yes, it's just a season, you have an obligation to this innocent soul, and you will be rewarded. The effort you put in will come back to reward you. Life will feel normal again, and you'll feel so accomplished. It ends. It does. Someone told me something that really helped me, actually. They said, remember when you got your first job and you were exhausted after school and you still had to work and life just got so much more hard just for you to make any money or barely make any money? And remember when you started university and you were traumatized again by how much more difficult life just got? Motherhood is like that. Eventually things shift. You find what works for you. Things get gradually easier and you get used to it to the point it feels normal and easy. And you'll have good days, bad days, boring days. And that person was so right. I'm only 9 months in, and they were right with motherhood. I think it's even better though, because the child themselves gets easier. They start having more of a personality and they'll start rewarding you back. They become a person. What no one told me, and what I couldn't even find online really, that wasn't just, it gets better. Because no one will tell you what gets better. But those night feeds during the newborn stage, they will become significantly shorter, and those night feedings will be quick 5 to 10 minutes. The lesson, and it won't be this long sitting and burping. The burping and the gas issues will stop, and much sooner than you think. Living around naps, and naps being a make or break situation, that'll end sooner than you think. But the problem is that there's this huge disconnect between moms who are past this stage and the moms who are in the thick of it and going through postpartum depression. And it seems like a lot of the moms that are past it have this revisionist memory where they forget all these hard details. I was so sick of hearing it gets easier. And when I would explain how difficult things are to the moms I did know, they would always respond with, oh, yeah, I forgot about that. I was so sick of hearing too. It becomes a different kind of hard. I think that one triggered me the most. I'm only 9 months postpartum, and from observation, that's just not true. Nothing, in my opinion, will be harder than the newborn trenches, the sleep deprivation, the long feeds, your body still recovering, especially when you're going from 0 to 1 and you're still learning everything and questioning everything. Oh my God, learning breastfeeding, being trapped by naps, let alone if you have a colicky baby or any other issues, sprinkle postpartum depression and anxiety to that. Yeah, I don't think it'll get worse than that. I think we just need to remember, and a lot of moms need to remember this, that when it does get better, recognize it, appreciate it, and try to be positive. I think it's hard the way everyone finds school hard and finds work hard. Life is quote unquote hard, but it will be easy and amazing some days, boring other days, and hard sometimes. When people say it's a different kind of hard to an exhausted postpartum mom, that sends like such a hopeless, triggering message. And I think that's where the disconnect is. Like before kids, life was hard, but it was significantly easier than after having kids, sure. But that normalcy will return. So don't take those comments seriously. Don't trust those opinions. I've seen so many family members and friends have kids and their lives are nowhere near as difficult as those of a new mom in the newborn stage with postpartum depression, let alone no village, et cetera, et cetera. Why? Because their kids eventually walk and talk and they listen to orders, and naps don't run their lives. Every hour isn't this make or break situation. Getting in the car isn't this big accomplishment. They eventually go to daycare. They can play nearby while a parent supervises. They're not carrying them 24/7. It's not so physically exhausting. And they're not waking up in the middle of the night multiple times. Oh my God. When I was in the thick of it, those "it doesn't get better" comments made me want to scream. They really made things like feel so much more hopeless. I had literally zero hope, and it made me spiral. Seeing things online about motherhood, whether it was mom's positive day in the life or a negative day in the life, whatever it was, I was triggered by everything. Even other moms just behaving like life is normal pissed me off, because I was like, why are we acting like this is normal? Are you guys not all suffering? But they're not. And the worst culprit for me, I think, was Reddit. So please do me a favor. If you have Reddit on your phone, delete it. Oh my God, I would read people's comments on there, on TikTok, on all the mom apps that you can think of. And I was just convinced this was just gonna suck forever. I was convinced misery was never gonna end and that my depression was gonna last years. But later I realized people on Reddit are just miserable. And if people are in these forums like I was, it's because they're miserable. The happy moms, they've moved on, they've forgotten, they're living, they're not in those discussions. Deleting some apps and filtering words from my feed was such a big, big step for me to improve my mental health. But the real step was me going on medication. So let's talk medication. And just remember, I'm not an expert, I'm not a doctor, and I'm not your doctor. I'm just a mom who had severe depression and was begging for relief. And so this is just my personal experience. But basically, after a crap ton of research, I did find out that most moms who were dealing with postpartum depression were on medication. And that medication was the number one answer, unfortunately, for what helped with postpartum depression. And real quick, I just want to mention that the research proves that postpartum depression is a very real hormonal imbalance. It's not in your head. It's not fully in your control. And I'm just quoting here right now from the United States FDA website to prove my point. So the article says, researchers increasingly describe PPD as not simply depression that happens after having a baby, but a disorder with its own biology related to pregnancy hormonal withdrawal. Medications like Zurzuvae don't primarily work on serotonin. Instead, it mimics the effects of allopregnanolone, a neurosteroid made from progesterone. Okay, so the reason I bring this up is not to promote medication, but it's to prove to you, because I needed this proven to me, was that if the research shows that postpartum depression is primarily caused by this postpartum hormonal drop, and that a medication like Zurzuvae can target it and resolve it mostly within a week or two, what does that tell you? That tells you that this is fixable and it's not you, that your hormones are working against you. It's not me. It's a symptom. Keep repeating that to yourself. I kept repeating that to myself over and over again, and it helped. It's not me. It's a symptom. And I promise you, no matter how logical your thoughts are or you think they are, because everyone kept telling me it's just your hormones, but again, my thoughts felt so logical. So to me, it couldn't have just been my hormones. And your thoughts are logical to an extent, but the reality is it's not that deep, and life will be normal again. And I didn't realize this until the veil lifted. A few people close to me begged me to go on medication, and I was shocked they even suggested it, because antidepressants and mental health, they're not really a topic for us. And in another episode, I'll discuss like the lack of knowledge and stigma in some cultures. But anyways, antidepressants always seem to be like something that other people would take, and mental health was something other people dealt with. Not anyone I know, not me at least. So when they did bring it up, I realized, yeah, they saw how severe it was for me and how unlike myself I was. And I was very open and honest with everyone. I knew about what I was dealing with. And I was surprised actually how many people confessed that they went through it too, or they know someone who went through it. And once more people found out that I was going through it, more people confessed to my friends and family. But anyways, I eventually took the leap. I talked to my doctor and she prescribed me Zoloft. And I'll discuss this more in another episode. But it did take a few weeks to really work. And those weeks were hard. But my God, when it finally worked, the veil lifted. I stopped ruminating. I stopped associating every experience, object, smell, and sound with a sad thought or memory. I started to have positive thoughts, thoughts I expected I would have postpartum. Before, I was so convinced I wouldn't enjoy nature anymore. I wouldn't enjoy anything anymore. I wouldn't have time to enjoy anything. I was convinced I wouldn't be happy for years, and I believed that things would never get easy. But they did. Even on the hard days, I felt like me. It felt like a regular hard day, not this deep, dark hole. I felt like I took VR goggles off. And the thing is, like, it didn't happen all at once. It happened in waves. I would have a few weeks of feeling normal and positive, and then a week of depression. And it was very on and off, which really sucked, to be honest. But it became more and more spaced out. And I kept telling myself, these are symptoms. It's not me. And then those symptoms were weaker and weaker. I did question whether the good days were fake because of the medication, but like I said before, my brain stopped clinging to everything in sight and everything I'd hear and warping it into this horrible, horrible sadness. With medication, I felt like I woke up and I recognized myself again, and it became clear to me that it really was my hormones, mostly, of course, because motherhood is still hard, especially in those early days. Journaling helped me a lot. Whenever I had positive days, I would write down what I was feeling. If I saw the light a little bit, I would write it down. And I would leave letters to myself for the days when things would go downhill, because they would. And I wasn't expecting it to be so up and down, and unfortunately it was. But I'm happy to report it really, really did keep getting easier and easier. And then the time between depressive or anxious episodes would become longer and longer. And I want to say around 5 months, I completely stopped having those really deep, dark, depressive feelings. The anxiety, though, lingered for a while, those like physical symptoms. Even until now, but it's much more subtle and it's not every day. And because my baby has gotten so much easier, it really, really helped. But I have to keep reminding myself to count my blessings and enjoy it, because it can be so hard, I guess, sometimes to abandon that narrator in your head that's telling you, no, life sucks, because you're so traumatized. So you feel like you don't want to let go of complaining, and you have stuff to complain about, but it's not that deep. You have every right to vent. But when things get better, just remember to acknowledge it and take a deep breath. There are so many tips I'm going to share in the next episode that helped me in my story. And I'm also going to have an episode about helping someone who doesn't have postpartum depression understand what it feels and looks like. But for this episode, I really just wanted to focus on telling you that if you think you can't do it, you can. I thought I'd never overcome it, and I did. I've watched moms in the worst situations make it through. I come from a family of many women who did it completely alone, in isolation, no help. Husband's gone all day. Back in the day when there was no internet, when they spoke a different language and couldn't even communicate with their neighbor. And so many other drawbacks. Idiots have done this before us, and you can too. It won't always be this hard. You'll handle it. You'll handle the sleep deprivation. You'll make it day after day. And yes, I use the word handle loosely, but you can push through. These days will be a distant memory, and sooner than you think. Just take it day by day. Fight against it, because unfortunately, it is a fight. A symptom you need to fight against. It's whether it's with medication or therapy or communication, breathing, exercises, systems and routines, getting outside, something, whatever. Just fight every day and keep note of the apps that trigger you and the things that trigger you, and delete them. And please remember, no matter how hard it is, above everything else, we owe these babies our effort, our care, and our understanding. No matter what right now, the most important obligation is to them. They did not ask to be here, but soon enough, you won't be this invisible servant anymore, but you'll be a human again. So let's get there together. Let's romanticize depression, as crazy as that sounds. And just think about how one day you'll talk about these days as something you conquered, not something that conquered you. Make yourself proud and your child proud. Take care of yourself where you can. And I hope you join me in the next episode.